Hello, hello, welcome to my very first live. Here we are. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy to see everyone joining in. This is my very first time, so slowly I will be finding my way through this. But I'm super excited. First of all, why? Why am I here doing this, right? Um, I've really shifted journeys recently, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit today for sure, because today's a bit of an introduction setting. But the real reason is that I've been looking for a platform that actually fits what I want to share, and um, I just feel like, obviously we live in a world of social media and Instagram and TikTok. It's all super valid and super valuable. But what I'm really missing is a space to actually share and also connect with everyone. Because, of course, comments and things are nice, but I want to find a space where we can have chats and we can interact a little bit. I think that's such a huge part of being human and not just showing what you do, but actually sharing together. So that's why we're here. And if you are watching on Gigaverse, welcome. This is a beautiful new platform that I am going to be using. And if you are here, it is also the most interactive experience. So you can pop any questions in the chat. You can send little reactions with an emoji. You can even turn on your camera, and that will not allow you to speak, but I'll be able to see you, and you can give me a wave or a little something something. So yeah, welcome if you are here. It's also possible to be watching on YouTube right now, which is also great. I will be keeping an eye on the chat there as well, so feel free to drop your questions there, and I will keep an eye out. But the most interactive experience is right here. Great. So let's jump right in. Uh, just know that questions are welcome. Throw them in the chat. Like I said, I might not get to it straight away if I'm in the middle of a story, but feel free to just to drop them in, and I promise to be getting to them at some stage throughout the live today. So, like I said, today I want it to be a bit of an introduction. It's my very first live. Some of you might know me, some of you might not. So, let me introduce myself a little bit. Who am I? And also, how did I get here to now sharing on this live all about astrocartography and my travels? Hey, Bill, nice to see you. I love that. Oh, Bill wants to join the stage. You know what? I'm actually going to create space for that right now because Bill inspired me to come on and do this in the first place. Hello. I'm not hearing you for some reason. Let's see if you
Sorry.
have. Yeah, there you are. How
Oh,
are
it
you?
froze.
It did, but now you're there. How's it going? So Bill actually yeah, you froze, but I am able to see you now actually. It seems all good on my side. But it keeps freezing. Hey, but just to give a little intro, Bill actually is one of the founding investors of Gigaverse. You have been in this from the start. This is actually your idea, as far as I know, and you at some stage told me this is the place to be to, share and to connect with people.
Yes, is it? Did I unfreeze? I was frozen for a second. Okay,
You're all good now. Yeah,
thank
welcome.
you. Yeah, I saw you pop on, so I just, I saw the little pink notification on my phone, and I thought I'm going to pop on and say hi. So I don't want
I
to take
love
away
that.
from your stream, but yes, hi everyone, and I'm glad that Annabelle is using this. I'm the original investor in Zoom Video, and the person that built Zoom, the head of product, and I funded Matt Storm from Guns N' Roses and a few other people to create this thing for influencers and creators to be in touch and instant broadcast. So I just thought I'd say hi.
100%. I mean, and that's one of the beautiful things about being here on Gigaverse, right? Is that you can literally request to join the stage. And I want to invite people to do that. Request to join the stage if you have a question that you actually just want to talk about or ask to me live. And how beautiful is that, that you can just join on and have that chat together?
Awesome. All right, I'm going to drop off because I'm actually in the middle of a meeting for Gigaverse. But when I saw your
Nice.
notification, I was like, I got to come on.
Beautiful. Have a really
Okay.
great day, Bill, and thanks for
Well,
tuning in.
bye bye.
Bye. How amazing is that? Okay, so I am so excited about that because that is exactly what I was just starting to talk about is this connection that I'm looking for with people to be able to do that. And here I am live, basically sitting in my home, and you can be part of that chat. We can have that chat together. So feel free to do that. I love that engagement. Let's keep that going. Excuse me. All right, so 1 second. What a great start. Here we are, being real and all that. Oh, I have someone else wanting to join the stage. I will be getting to my story, but here we are. Hello, that is actually my mom, obviously the most supportive person in the world. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay, and I'm going to leave. Well, I'm not going to leave, but I'm going to leave the stage and just watch you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I love that. I'm actually in France at the moment, and my family is um my family is back in Aruba, where I grew up for most of my life. So I miss them lots, but they are 100% a big part of yeah, anything I do, really, and the most supportive parents in the world. All right, so what am I going to chat about today? I just want to share a little bit about who I am. Like I said, how did I get here? How did I get to a point where I am feeling this freedom and this excitement to start streaming? Like, obviously I have lots to talk about, otherwise I wouldn't be here. So that's something I'm going to be talking all about. Then I want to go a little bit into astrocartography. For a lot of you, this might be completely new. Maybe you have heard about it before, and that's why you're tuning in. But astrocartography is has opened my mind. Actually, when I heard about it first, I dove in straight away, and I am now giving live or giving consultations, giving readings to help people find their best places in the world. So I will be explaining a little bit about that, and I'll do that through explaining why I picked France to live, actually, because knowing where, like, that is what astrocartography helps you with, is to find your home, or your next travel place. So I'm going to be sharing about that, and also sharing about why I made that move to France at the moment. And I'll kind of see how this goes. I'm going to let it flow. I'm going to let you ask your questions, and yeah, share all about this huge new passion of mine. So once again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. So, okay, where to begin, really? My name is Annabelle, just to start with the basics. I am originally Dutch. I was born there, and I moved to Aruba when I was 11 years old. So, Aruba is my home. Like I just mentioned before, my parents are still there, so it remains my home in that way, although I have not been living there for quite a few years already now. But yeah, Aruba is where I kind of grew up. And some of you that might be following me for a while know that I used to be a professional kiteboarder, and that's kind of where I want to start this story, because from one thing leads to the next, and in the end, everything, yeah, brought me kind of to this space right here. So let's see. I was 14 years old when I started kiteboarding and found this huge new passion of being on the water. Obviously, living on an island was the absolute ideal setup for this. So it started with before school, after school, getting on the water as much as I could, together with my parents, together with friends, and I'm a bit of an ambitious person, I would like to say. I'm competitive as well, 100%. I like to do things to the absolute max and then some. So I pushed, and I got really excited about freestyle, which was growing so fast at that stage, and I loved the tricks and the technicality of it. And that was just what we would do every single day. Every weekend we would be out on the water, and I would be, trying the newest freestyle trick. And one thing led to the next. Ambitious me, said, okay, let me reach out to a sponsor. And before I knew it, I had got my first board, and then I got my first kite at a discount. That's where you start. And that was such a beautiful journey to kind of go through that. And it was when I was 18 years old, I got my first international contract. And from there, I basically started traveling the world full time. And traveling since then has become such a massive part of my life, which is all going to come back to my story about astrocartography, which is your map to the world, literally. And it started then. And I didn't know. I didn't realize, I was just out there living my best life, being a professional kiteboarder. And I started doing competitions. I had beautiful and supportive sponsors. And I was literally on the road full time. My home was Aruba, but it would be 1 week in, 2 months out, 2 weeks home, and off again for the next trip. And that went on for about 6 years, I would say. And it went well. I love the competitions. They went really well. At my peak, I was vice world champion, which obviously is something I'm incredibly proud of. And that was a beautiful life of traveling, intense as well. Obviously, there's that side to it too, where it's just this hectic lifestyle. And yes, the sponsors are great, but they also expect a lot from you. So I was 2 years in, and I went so hard that everything kind of caught up with me. And my knees actually gave up, which was a crazy experience. Is that my body just said, you know what, no, you're done for a little while here. And um I couldn't do anything else but listen. So I did the x-rays, I did the MRIs, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with my knees on paper, which was just so hard to grasp. Like, well, what do you mean nothing is wrong? I'm having this pain. I can't even like go up the stairs by any means. Um, but what happened is that I stopped competing for a little bit at that stage, and I completely broke down. And that's when I had a burnout on a pretty young age. I was 20, and I had a really tough time. As soon as my body said stop, my mind went with it. And some pretty big traumas from back in the day came up. We've been through a lot as a family, and that obviously has to go somewhere and also has to come out somewhere. So I went through this burnout that took altogether, I think the whole process was maybe a year. But when I stopped competing is when I also looked for help for the first time. And why am I bringing this up? I think it is an important part of what led me to do the work I currently do and make that shift. Because as I started my journey into therapy, I realized very quickly that your traditional therapies, they didn't really help me. It didn't click with me. Just the talking and talking and talking, that was hard because in my mind I was able to say everything. I knew everything, but my body, on the other hand, um, couldn't keep up with that. Um, so what I did is at that stage, I went into alternative therapies. I went and tried a whole bunch of things, energy work in very many different forms. I met some incredibly beautiful and inspiring people in this journey. And that got me out of it. That got me to not only talk, but also feel. And that, I think, is one of the most important things in a healing journey. Is, like I said, your mind knows it all, but it is so easy to convince yourself that you're doing well, or that it's gonna that you're just being silly, or all these destructive thoughts that we all have. And um it was feeling in the body, that subconscious sense that knows what it needs, and that in the end was able to, relieve these traumatic patterns and things that I had. So I think, I mean, I was back on the road kite surfing full time again within 3 months or so, but that healing journey, that continued for the next 10 years at least. Or I think we are always in some form of healing journey, so that goes on and on by with phases, let's say. And there was that also. I think starting that healing journey, healing myself through that, opened me up to this alternative world, to this more spiritual world, if you will. I'm a pretty down to earth person, but I also have this sense of this intuitiveness and the energy, and I believe so much in that, and I feel through that all the time. And I like the combo of that too. That combo of being down to earth, but also being so intuitive and checking in. So then I kind of started from the healing journey. I kind of went into the journey of discovering more around that world. And I started small. I practiced yoga a lot at that stage, and I was intrigued and thought, well, you know what? If I can practice it, I can teach it. So I went to Costa Rica on a beautiful trip to get my yoga teacher training, and that was kind of my first step into, like, oh wait, I can actually do this, I can bring this. And I didn't know yet what I was going to be doing after I was a pro kiteboarder. You know what I would actually say back then? I said this even when I was 18 years old. I said, you know what, I'm going to be a pro kiteboarder. I'm going to achieve the very best I can, and then I'm going to use that knowledge and roll into the kite industry and work for a kite brand. And that happened. That's exactly what happened. When I was at the peak of my career, I stopped competing and I tried to do it as a lifestyle rider for a little while. That didn't really connect, but I was still enjoying it, but it didn't quite give me enough of what I was looking for. So I actually, my last sponsor that I was with, was at that stage. It was literally just starting. It was a kite brand that was being started by a few people in the industry that I really respected. And I was like, I want to be involved. But immediately the chats were not just as a rider, because yes, I would be a rider and an athlete. No, I would also be involved within the business side of it. So that's when I did a 50-50, and I did this for a few years, where half of the time, 20 hours a week, I was in the office. This was for North Kiteboarding and Mystic in the Dutch office. So I actually moved back. This is when I moved back from Aruba to the Netherlands to go be present there and start my journey in the office. And at the same time, I was still an athlete, and I would go on beautiful trips and do the photo shoots. And I was like, wow, I've really got it, worked out well now. This is the dream. Now I'm like next phase in the dream, right? So I did that for a few years. I worked in total. I was there for 4 years. I think 2 or 3 of those were doing this mix. And it was a beautiful time. And it was so special to be able to use all that knowledge that I had gathered throughout the years of kiteboarding, of the industry, and take that into an office space. And in the end, work my way up to creating and managing the customer service and warranty team. So, which was, it was a great part of my journey. And I'm super thankful for it. But then, I was sitting in that office day in, day out, and it wasn't quite resonating with me for the long term, for the future. There was a stage where I started to realize that I loved setting it up. I loved building the start of this brand, the start of this team that I created. And when that was all kind of set up, I was like, okay, where's my next challenge? When can I go on a trip again? Because I loved the stability as well for a little while, being working in an office, being in one space in the Netherlands. I had a lot of friends around me. It was a beautiful time. But that itch started again, where it was time to get on the move again and start traveling. And I didn't, quite know what that was going to look like yet, but that kind of all started to flow when I basically got interested in Reiki. which is a form of energetic healing. And you know what? I had actually never received a session before, but I had done all this energy work, right? And I heard a lot about it. And I was like, well, imagine if I would just be able to, give people this beautiful experience of energy healing. Why not? So while I was still at the office, at this stage, I really still didn't know that this was going to be the next journey at all. But it was just such an interest. I was so intrigued. Everything in me was like, this is what I want to do. This is what like I was just yearning to grasp this information and to be able to understand how to actually harness energy within your hands, within your body, and be able to share that. Because I really do believe we all have that as humans, but you need to learn how to use that. There's an intuitive aspect, but there's also an aspect of needing to know what that means. So I took on the course and continued my work on the side, and I finished that and jumped straight into the next one, which is a beautiful energetic therapy method called Regenesis. And I started this as I was still in the office. This was a method I had received once as a session, or multiple times actually, that helped me quite a lot on my journey. And it is, let's the way I kind of explain it is it's almost a mix between Reiki and osteopathy. Like, it's the energy healing side, but instead of just working on like a general rebalancing, with this method you can really work on physical and emotional and mental issues within the body and the mind. So if you have a physical injury, if you have sprained something, you can work on it with the energy method. If you have, some traumas you're working through, you can work on that with this energy method. And that seemed like such a powerful thing to be able to now take that to the next level. And that was a bigger study. That was about a year or more, which I just dove right in. Again, I just didn't know if this was going to be it, but it just felt right intuitively. I was like, I am on the right path. And I quit my job. And that all happened quite quickly. And it was scary because I was still studying, but everything in me was like, no, you need your full attention to go do this. I wanted to create space to be able to travel again and somehow combine this. Hadn't quite worked it out yet, but it just felt like the right thing to do. So I, went through with the study, and I quit my job, closed a beautiful few years within this company, but also closed an incredible 10 years within the industry. That was, yeah, incredibly, incredibly powerful, and a big step, to really step away from your comfort zone. My comfort zone was kiteboarding. I knew nothing else for since I was 14 years old, and I just left it. And it was time, because every passion you have in the end becomes your work. And mine became my work very, very early on. And it gets to a stage where you just want it to be your passion again. And I'll be very honest, I am still refining that. It has been a journey to, mentally let go of whenever I'm on the water thinking that I need to perform or need to show what I can do. That if I'm not landing a certain trick or hitting the best wave, that I've not had a good session, where I want to get back to that feeling where it's feels like freedom again, where you get on the water to just clear the mind and have a beautiful time. So that's an ongoing journey. There's been a journey that's been going on for a long time. Going into the waves has really helped with that. I absolutely love going into the waves with a kite. Surfing as well. Surfing is maybe even a bigger passion at this stage. But for kite surfing as well in the waves, that's such a different thing, because I would always be doing tricks, and to be, now all of a sudden trying to manage these massive waves scares me absolutely way too much. But I'm doing it, and I'm slowly progressing, and I have something to learn again, which having something to learn always makes things fun, obviously. So that's been a really good journey. But yeah, just closing down on that kiteboarding industry, that was a really big step. And then, that was it. All of a sudden I was already, practicing on people with my new line of energy work, doing energetic therapy for some of the first people while I was still on my studies. But that was no guarantee. There wasn't money coming in yet. And looking back now, I'm like, wow, I was brave. But you you get to a point in your life where there's no way around it. You feel something so strongly that you cannot continue going about it this way that you had been before. So at the time, I also started planning my first trip. So I had met my partner. We had been together for a little while already, and we both felt the same about the fact that the Netherlands was not our home. um he's not from there. I'm sort of not from there. I like to think of it that way. And it's, it's kind of cold, it's kind of gray. The Netherlands has beautiful aspects, but it doesn't quite have the things that we value a lot. And coming from the Caribbean, I really value my sunshine. I value being able to go in the water a lot, the waves, the consistency of conditions. And the Netherlands didn't, doesn't have that. Let's just be be open and simple about that. um so we ended up saying, okay, you know what, we want to go try different places around the world to go live, and just experience what that's like. But in order to live somewhere and actually feel like you know what it's like to live there, you need to be there for a little while. If you're just a tourist backpacking, you get a beautiful idea of places, but you're not truly living there. You're not making the connections with the local community. And that was an important part for us. So we said, okay, we're going to go to places, and our rule is we gonna go for a minimum of 2 months and a maximum of 6 months. And that is what we ended up doing. And we started our journey that winter in Mauritius, which is a beautiful island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and is a surfing and kite surfing paradise. It genuinely is. And we both knew the island already, so it was a bit of an easy start. We had a few connections that could maybe help us to get settled a bit, and help me to find, to set up a client base. So we moved to Mauritius for that winter, and we stayed there for 6 months straight up. That's what we did. And it was beautiful. It was an incredible experience. I set up my first official practice there, practicing energetic therapy full time, which, was such a shift to all of a sudden kind of be a small business owner and having to figure it out yourself. So that was a big journey, and how to find clients, how to go about that in a place you don't know, where you don't know the people, where you don't have that start. And it went incredibly well. I am still so, sometimes astonished by that we just went there and we did it. And I had clients, beautiful people that all were open to energetic therapy, and that I was able to help out, and just made me feel so secure in the choice that I made to go on this journey. So that was for 6 months. I think it was around 4 or 5 months that I did realize that Mauritius wasn't going to be my home, that I would love to return, but that I don't see myself living there in the long term. So our journey continued, which we always said it would, because the maximum was 6 months. But our search for that place continued, and we were off back to Europe. Europe is kind of the space where a lot happens in the summer. It's nice weather. It's a nice time to be there. Europe is very central, and there's some incredible places. And I had always been curious about Portugal. Portugal seemed to be for me the kind of ideal location within Europe. Why? Because it has the weather, it has the climate, it has incredible surf. I had been there on a surf trip a couple years back, and it was obviously just a week and a holiday, but it was incredible. I just loved the energy. I liked the people, a lot of, international people living there as well, which is nice to connect with as well. So, we went to Portugal, and we actually went up to Peniche, which is about an hour north of Lisbon. And I want to look into that later with you as well, because it's quite interesting what happened there for me astrocartography wise. But we went to live there for, I think it was 5 months, because we planned to go to Brazil just before, just after Portugal for a month for more work related things. So we stayed there for 5 months, and this time we really knew no one. We had one or two connections that were there, but this was really starting from scratch, which was a different experience once again. And I loved every minute of it. I loved every minute of it. But at the same time, um, my client work didn't really come off the ground. I wasn't able to get the clients the way I did in Mauritius. And all of a sudden, I started thinking, okay, this is our second spot now. I am 100% dependent on, being able to find local clients. And I do distance work as well. So I do offer sessions where I work with someone over a distance. But I feel like that will never be as big as working in person when it comes to energy work. I love doing that side as well, but it's just not 100% the same. And I love working with people one on one anyways. When I like chatting with them and having those conversations and sharing that journey. So that made it really hard, because the economy was different. Simple as that. You get somewhere and the economy is different, and people might not be able to afford it, or might not prioritize such, self-care in their lives, which just made me think, okay, how do I manage to live this lifestyle that I really, really want to, and do this work that I really care about, work with energy, do this, this side of, yeah, of life. How do I make this happen? And obviously, as things go and as things happen, that is when astrocartography came on my path. And it was as simple as going to, you know, um, going to an event. Went to a beautiful community event, like a circle, where we, drank cacao and we sang, and it was just a nice community setting, connecting with like-minded people. And someone said to me, I don't know if I'm going to be in Portugal for the rest of my life because I'm on a very difficult line here. And I said, well, what do you mean? I had never heard about this in my life. And she's like, well, she told me about it, that someone had showed her her lines and said that, Portugal would bring her a great transformation, but would not be the easiest place to stay. And that she felt that really strongly, and that she had been struggling with multiple things. So I all I knew is that this stayed in my head. I went home. I researched what is astrocartography, locational astrology. What is this? What does it mean? And I I signed up for the course. It is as simple as that. I think it was within 3 days time that I had learned about what it was. There I cannot describe it differently as a little flame, a little fire lit up within me more than anything else ever before, and just felt like this is it. And why? Mainly, I would say because astrocartography is energy work in the end. It's based on astrology. I'm going to talk all about that just now, but it is what energy does a place give, what lines are there that are giving this energy to a place and make you feel a certain way. And that in combination with the world and traveling, this is what I knew, this is what I had been doing for years, and I loved, and I am now choosing to be doing full time again. So to have this combination of seeing the world through a different eye, now seeing it through the eyes of astrocartography and through energy, seeing what all these places where I had been actually showed me on a map, and how, obviously I looked at all these places where I had competitions and where I traveled to and where I had good experience and where I had bad experiences, and it all checks out. Everything I went through, I can see it back on this map. And then I was like, well, first of all, I can use this to find my own home in the future, and to use this to guide us on this journey that we are now on, to find the place where we would like to settle one day in the future when we are done with traveling full time. And second of all, I can help people to, find these places as well. People that are also doubting where to live, people that have, are not happy where they are now, or struggling in their career, or struggling in their love life, or it can be so many things. Every aspect of life can be viewed on these maps. And what if it is as simple as moving 1 hour south, or moving across the world, if you will, or just planning your next holiday to a place that's really going to help you to recharge you in energy. So obviously this yeah, I don't know, I think this gets everybody excited, because it is something I am still, it blows my mind every single day, and I am extremely passionate about it, and I love talking about it. Which kind of brings us to this point today, where here we are. I am going to, share my journey. First of all, share my journey of traveling the world, living in different places in the world, with using, the power of astrocartography. And second of all, use this space to connect with people. I want to start doing, live readings, invite people over to do their astrocartography readings live. I want to invite guests on the show with to talk about interesting topics. And I might even start, I have some ideas I'm playing with, but I might start, prepping some of my readings on here to give you an idea and teach you all about astrocartography, and seeing how I go through this process. Also very much to show you and go together. Like, I want to start traveling little trips here and there to some of my lines, and plan those with you. Go on here and go on a session and say, okay, let's find a trip for July. Something like that. So that is yeah, a little bit of how I got to where I am today, and why I am here now sharing about this, and why I think that this is something worth sharing about. I feel like the entire world should know about astrocartography. And genuinely, I feel like it will be like that very, very soon. I really do think that people will start knowing about this, just like something like yoga absolutely boomed. It was so small at first, and now everybody left, right, and center is practicing and teaching, which is a beautiful thing. These things that matter, that people connect to, that they grow and become popular. And I think we are at a stage where a lot of people are looking for different homes. There's an immense freedom in the world right now. A lot of people are starting to work remote. Traveling is nothing special anymore. Everybody does. It's so easy to, go abroad and go on a trip. So why not, pick a right place for you? So from there, I think it could be really nice to, go into the defining astrocartography a little bit, sharing a little bit about you, like, okay, what are you even talking about here? Still don't really get it. So I want to talk a little bit about it, and then I want to actually show you as well today. And I'm going to show you by, going into where I am right now, which is in France, in this beautiful home, which I'm so happy about, which all that expansiveness, it all comes back and shows into my lines, which is really incredible. So, when we really go back to the basics of astrocartography, is it is based on astrology. And astrology is obviously seeing where the planets are in any given moment, and how they affect us on Earth, and how they move around us. Um, we all have our birth chart, which I will also be showing you in a little bit. And our birth chart, our astrological birth chart, is a map of who we are. It shows what is, what our character is like. It shows what themes are going to be highlighted in our lives. It kind of shows, what's important to us, the kind of people we have around us. It really shows a lot about, your life. And I can recommend anyone to get an astrology reading one day. I don't do those myself, but it is incredible to just, hear all these things about who you are and use those, even the harder aspects, use those to work on and to, find some acceptance as well about some things that maybe you don't always love about yourself or you're unsure about or where there's doubt. So it is based on astrology. And what happens then is you have this birth chart that shows you who you are. And then when we take that to the map, we have a literal world map, and that shows us literally those planets where they were on the map on the moment we were born. So it translates this birth chart onto a map and shows where these energies, these planets were, and how they have now created these lines of energy. And it has to do with, themes of the self, themes of the career, themes of our partner, and themes of our home. And by that, we can really see throughout the map what each, city, country, what story it has to tell. And also, what I think is important to mention is that astrocartography states that we exist in all places in the world all the time. So it doesn't mean that if we travel, we become someone else, right? Because we already exist there. There is a story about us that is already there. And this kind of, by going to these places, you can kind of bring these different energies of us to light. You can activate these stories and kind of use that to, bring focus to the themes of your life that you want to bring focus to, right? So if you want to go on a holiday and you want to really work on yourself and your health and just relaxing, we can find a place where that story is already alive. If we want to build our career, we can go to a place where there is, where it just looks really good for building a career, where there's a lot of good prospects for growth and for money and all of these topics as well. So with every area in our life, we can find a place that kind of, accentuates these themes that you're looking for. So, by having said that, I'm going to share my screen because I want to show this to you because it is absolutely incredible, and so incredibly special. Um, so, I'm going to share my screen with you and show you all about astrocartography and focus for now, first of all, on who I am, use my birth chart to show you, and also show you a little bit about why I picked France, why I am here right now. So, if you're listening to the audio version of this, I'm just pulling up my birth chart here and I'll go through it. Everyone watching will be able to see this right now. And this is my birth chart. So if you've never seen a birth chart before, this is what it looks like. It is, again, a map of where the planets were in the moment that I was born. So there's a few things I just quickly want to explain here, just to the basics of a birth chart, so you kind of know what we're looking at here. First of all, you see that everything is divided into these 12 sections, kind of. These are called houses, and houses are the areas of life, the themes of life that we have, basically. So the first one that I kind of want to talk about, I'm going to talk about the four main ones. I'm not going to go through all. I'm going to talk about the four main ones that are also important when we go onto the map. And the first one is literally the first house here. And the first house is about the self. It is mainly about how you feel in your physical body, and it is about how you come across to others, and really how others see you. So it's a big part of you, but it's more about how others see you. And it is marked by the ascendant, the angle called the ascendant. And this is important because we're going to take this onto the map in a little bit as well. So the ascendant, if you really want to know the specifics, the ascendant is literally where the sun kind of rose, the horizon where the sun rose on the day that you were born. That's the ascendant. Then, if we go to the other side of the chart, we have all the way on the other side the seventh house, which is marked by the descendant. And this is your partner story. Most often, it's our love story. It can also be a business partner. It's really the one on one interactions we have with people. Then, if we go to the top house, the 10th house, this is your career and your reputation. This is marked by the MC. And as you can see, the MC for me is in my 11th house. The MC, so the career angle shifts between the ninth, the 10th, and the 11th house. So where it is also shows a little bit about the story of your career. Then, when we go to the bottom, we have the fourth house, which is our home, our family, and how we experience the place, which obviously is also very important to astrocartography. How do we feel in a place? And this is actually marked by the IC. For me, it's always completely opposite the MC. It is the point, the absolute darkest point in the night. That's where that is. The MC is the lightest point of the day, where the sun is at its absolute peak. So for me, the IC is in my fifth house, which again, this shifts between like the third, the fourth, and the fifth house. That also tells a little bit of a story of, okay, what does home mean to you? What's important between home and family? So these are the four angles. And what happens on a map, and we're gonna see this just now, but what happens on a map is we get an angle combined with a planet, and that tells us the story of the place. That's one of the lines we're going to be looking at. So, for example, if you have an ascendant line together with the sun, it means that there's a story about yourself together with the sun, which is also about your identity or willpower. But because it's with an ascendant, it's about the self. If it was on an MC line, it would have to do with your career. So that's kind of what we're going to translate to the map very soon. Then, just to go over some of the basics here, most of you might have heard about your sun sign. If you've never like gone into astrology too much, you would have likely heard about your sun sign, which most of us will know. And my sun is down here in the third house in the sign Pisces. So I'm a Pisces baby. And that kind of means that there's a few stories there activated. I bring that Pisces energy. I am intuitive, which is that I feel like that flame of like, I have to go do this astrocartography thing right now. That is such like that intuition of my Pisces energy that just knows where I'm meant to be. Then it's in the third house, and the third house brings stories of communication. So maybe me here talking, very much communication story. It is also the story of siblings, and I do have a pretty big story there as well. So that kind of shows what area of your life is going to be accentuated. Then there's a part of me that always was like, okay, it's nice that I'm a Pisces. I see all these horoscopes, but I don't always connect 100%. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, but where's this super structured and ambitious side of me? Pisces is dreamy. Pisces is, kind of flowing. It's a water sign. It's going with the flow, really trusting the intuition. But I can work hard. I can be incredibly structured to the point of being way over the top, and I'm so ambitious. I want to be successful at everything I do. That's just a big part of me. So I was always like, okay, well, where does that come in? Because I wasn't very, educated about astrology yet either. And that's when I learned about the rising sign, your ascendant. Your rising sign, the point where the sun came up on the day that you were born, is almost, I would like to say, the second half of who you are. It really is more of how people see you, how you come across, and your physical body. But in order to come across a certain way, you have to kind of, obviously have these qualities. So it's a big part of your outside, I would almost say. Like, it's almost like your sun sign is your inside of who you truly are deep within. And then your rising sign is kind of like this outside of you. And for me, that's in the sign Capricorn. And Capricorn is ambitious. Capricorn is successful. Capricorn is, can be some form of authority a little bit. I kind of I liked leading a team within the office. So I kind of like doing that. Capricorn really likes structure. So that's where that kind of comes in as well. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, there you go. That makes more sense. That's what's actually happening here. So that's an important one. Then, last but not least, for now, I just want to show my moon sign, because the moon is your emotions, the moon is your feelings, such an important part of who you are. And my moon in this case is in my seventh house. And I said before that seventh house stands for, clients, for love, for partners, but also for clients is kind of what I was going to go with. That is, one-on-one interactions. So doing client work is very much a seventh house theme. And that's where my moon is. But it is also, the connection with your partner. It is in the sign Cancer, and Cancer is very nurturing. Cancer is also water, same as Pisces. Very soft, very nurturing energy. And this is partly me, but if anything, it is also what I look for in a partner, or what I look for in a client. I want people to have that connection with, that true connection, which, now that I think of it, is maybe also why I want to be here doing these lives now, is because I'm kind of yearning for that connection. I want the depth. I don't want a quick thing where we look into where it's just not real. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my moon in Cancer for you. Okay, so that gives a little bit of an idea of my birth chart. And now I want to take this to the map. I want to show you what this means in France. And I'll pull up the map right here. And what we see, I've kind of, here we go. I have already zoomed in on France because that's the one place I want to look into. I don't want to go too far into things today, but I want to look into France with you, because why am I here? And I'll show you exactly where I am now, which is helpful in the bigger scheme of things. I am just here in the south, all the way in the southwest of France. Um, we were pulled here, first of all, because of the surf culture. And, no matter what lines you have anywhere in the world, you're always going to have personal preference of what's important to you. If you have a great line on the North Pole, but you just really like being in the sun, then you're not going to be very happy moving there. I think that's one of the most important things to know about astrocartography to start with. So we went here really with the reason of, or we thought about going here really with the reason because it has this massive surf culture. It has great waves. It has wind in the summer for kiteboarding as well. And it's kind of a milder climate, but still has the seasons. It's very central. So yeah, I would say enough reasons to go move here. Have I mentioned that they love wine culture, coffee culture, and make the best baguettes in the world here? I would say that's a big part for me as well, if we're being honest here. But if we now look into the lines of what is happening here, we immediately see one line, this vertical line, very close. And that is the biggest reason why I decided this is going to be my home for the next few months. This is why I would like to go here. And this line is a career line, most of all. So it's that MC angle that we spoke about. So that's what I said on the birth chart, is you have these angles, and the MC has to do with your career. So this is an MC line, which is telling a story about my career when I'm here. And it is combined, you can see it up here, but it's quite small, but it's combined with the planet Jupiter. And if anything, Jupiter stands for expansion, growth, positivity. Jupiter is fun. Jupiter is light. And, growth of my career at this stage where I am just starting, very recently I've started giving, or a couple months ago, but like I've just launched my website. I'm giving clients astrocartography readings right now. I am still doing my energetic therapy work, but have now officially made this website where I share all this information. This, after that launch, this is literally, if there would be any line in the world where I would recommend anyone to go for this kind of time in your life, it would be a Jupiter carrier line. So we were already speaking. It was actually my partner who was really interested in going to France. And um, when I at first I wasn't too sure, because I don't speak the language, which bothers me because I like being able to speak the language. And the culture is not always the easiest. It's something I have to get used to. But then I saw this line, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can try this. Maybe in this time of my life, it's exactly what I need. So that is actually the biggest reason why I came here. Then we also, have these two lines here, as you can see. And these lines are still very much felt as well. So these planetary lines, the further you go away from them, you feel them less. The closer you are, the stronger they are. But I don't have to be right on a line to be able to feel it, basically. These lines are interesting. These lines are both about the self. So they have to do with how I feel within myself, within my body. And one of them is combined with Neptune, the planet Neptune, which is very, let's say, inspirations, feeling inspired, spirituality, not bad. But it can also be quite confusing and foggy almost. Not ideal 100% always. It could potentially point to hidden illnesses even within myself. So I don't love that, but I'm just far enough away that I'm like, okay, let's take the inspiration part from it. Let's be aware that it's there and that I might feel a little bit foggy here and there, but let's use that to my advantage. Then a little bit further away, we have Uranus on the ascendant. So it's also having to do with about myself, and it's with the planet Uranus. And Uranus is, first of all, technology. So doing online consultations, pretty fitting. Then it also has to do with innovation. It has to do with kind of chaos, like spontaneity. It can, like, sudden changes is very much Uranus. So maybe I'm going to go through a change within myself. Maybe I'm going to be a little bit all over the place. Let's see. But it's, again, far, and this one's even further. It's about medium strength. So it is at a good enough distance that I'll get some of that energy, but I wouldn't want to live right on it. Right. So next up, I want to bring in a second set of lines. And these are the Paran lines. These are horizontal lines that is a crossing between two planets, and they bring an extra layer of energy. They show you, okay, nice that you found this line, but where along this line should you be? And these are a combination of two planets. So if we zoom in a little bit, where I am exactly is right here. That's kind of where the town is where I'm based. It's called Hossegor. And as you can see, I am kind of close to this one line here. It is about 20 miles away, which means it is strong to medium in strength. So I'm not right on it. These lines, they extend a little bit less far. So if you would move 1 hour south, 1 hour more north, that would already make a big difference. And this line, I doubted a little bit. I'll be honest with you. And I'm really intrigued to see how it's going to play out because it's not the easiest line. And I do think my preference for, the culture of this town won in the end. But it is something that I'm curious to play how it's going to play out. It is a combination of Mercury and Saturn. Those planets together bring an energy of kind of restriction of the thoughts. It might be harder to kind of gather your thoughts, to connect socially as well. It can be a little bit harder for me to connect to the culture here, literally, which is one of the things I've been saying. And what that kind of tells me is that, okay, I'm gonna naturally struggle a little bit to connect here. I'm gonna struggle a little bit with my, with my thoughts here a little bit. So if I want to meet people, if I want to go out there and connect, if I want to, get my thoughts in order, I just need to work a little bit harder to get that done. It's just not going to come as naturally to me. So yeah, I'm going to have to put myself out there and either learn French or, just go out and have conversations if I want to, have that social life here as well. The good thing about this line is that it stands for also really good concentration for specific and detailed projects. So if I want to go really into the details, that is a great line for it. And to give an example, I kind of set for myself, I'm like, okay, let's let this first live be maybe 40 minutes, for 50 minutes. Well, we are over an hour, and I'm still, going in and chatting because I want to go into these details. I want to show you these little bits of, okay, but I've not just picked this place out of nowhere, you know? So that's the, kind of that extra layer. There's only one of them. There are more lines to look into. We have 5 6 different kind of lines that we can look into. These are the two main ones, the absolute most important ones that are going to define a place. Then last but not least, I want to quickly bring up one last set of lines, and that is called local space lines. For that, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. They make it quite busy, I'll be honest. I'm going to turn off the parens for you because it gets chaotic. Obviously, I'm from the Netherlands. That's where I was born. So if we bring this last set of lines, they're called local space lines. As you can see, they kind of spread out of everything, out of that birthplace. So what these are, they're an extra layer of energy. If I, in the moment that I was born, if I would have looked up to the sky and I would have, looked at where the planets were, and I would have literally pointed saying, that's where Venus is, that's where the sun is, that's where the moon is. These lines pull a direct line to that planet, literally points to where that planet was above the sky in the moment that I was born. And when we follow the direction of these lines, we get that the energy from that planet as well. But you really do have to be on it in order to feel it. So this one, like I said, the first set of lines, the big planetary lines, they really stretch very far. Then the horizontal paran lines, you already have a bit less of a strength, so you have to be closer to it. These lines you have to be on top of, basically. So then if we, zoom back in to France, we see that I don't have any of these lines happening. If anything, there's one through Toulouse here and towards Montpellier. Those are stories for another day with some of my competitions and stuff. But yeah, so this kind of, gives that last layer. And that, you know, shows a little bit about why I've picked France. Then, as a last thing, because we look at very many things, especially for, a professional reading, it's very important. We really go into depth, especially depending on your question. What kind of questions do people come with? It can really be anything from do you want to move to I want to find love in my life, or I want to grow my career, or I want to go on a great trip with my family, or I want to go on a great trip by myself, I want to find a retreat somewhere, and then we can really go in depth into where one should be. So, when you move across the world, and I've just pulled up my birth chart again, when we move across the world, there are shifts in our birth chart. That doesn't mean that our story of who we are changes, but by going to another spot in the world, there are shifts that kind of bring other areas to life. Now, the main things that normally shift are the houses. So, for example, my son is now in the third house. That could shift to the fourth house, and that would bring a whole other story to life. That would all of a sudden bring home and family to life instead of third house topics like communication and siblings. So it really depends how far you go if you're going to be seeing this shift, in the world. So if I now go to Hossegor, which is where I am now, the shift is, oh, this is Spanish. The shift is very minimal, to be honest. When things stay in the same house, the only thing that's going to shift is the angles. So I really kind of want to focus on this MC angle here on the top. I think that's an important one too for my France story, actually. So if we go back to my natal chart, you will see that the MC is between Jupiter and Pluto here at 19 degrees. When I go to Hossegor, it goes to the other side of Jupiter and it is at 13 degrees. This means that it is actually closer now, it is closer to Jupiter than it is when in my normal natal chart. So it brings that extra, like we just saw that Jupiter on the MC line as well. So you can now see how that translates. But this really brings that luck of Jupiter, because Jupiter is just super lucky. that luck and growth of Jupiter closer to my career angle, which really tells the story of what my career is going to be doing here. And because that's right, kind of the main focus right now, I'm like, you know what, I'll take that. That is sounds absolutely perfect. And other than that, it is keeping, most of my natal story the same, but it is still bringing that focus to, this 11th house here, which stands for networks and community and hopes and dreams. So achieving these hopes and dreams that I have, that's all 11th house. So that's not a bad thing to have your career story in. And then, we have that moon still in the seventh house of partners. Great for client work, finding people to really connect with. Connect with my partner as well. Have a beautiful time here and just feel that nurturing within our relationship. And then, last but not least, I have within the first house here, I have Neptune and Uranus, the planets of inspiration and of technology within myself. Sudden changes. I'm happy to work on, my physical, my fitness, my health. These are important stories to me. Neptune also kind of tells that story, and it tells the story of how I feel within myself. So that's kind of a little bit of, yeah, what happens in France. And just to give an idea of how much it can shift from one place to the next, I'm going to show you one more place today, and I'm going to leave it at that. I want to show you Portugal because that's where I lived last year. And if we zoom out a little bit here, Portugal is really not that far. you know, it's within, if we look at Europe, if we look at the world, America feels far, Asia feels far, Portugal doesn't feel that far, but it is a completely different shift in energy. And I felt so, I mean, I've only been in France for 2 weeks, but it already feels very differently. Since I got to France, I have felt the need and like ready to work on my career, to reach out to people, to start up this live stream and just set it all up and get all the things I need. I felt the expansiveness of Jupiter, because I said Jupiter also stands for growth. I felt it in literally the place. There's so much space here. We got a home with a garden around it. We have not had this in any of the places where we've moved over the last year. So literally the expansiveness of Jupiter has welcomed me here already. And I'm very excited. I'm going to share as we go. I'm going to be here for the next 6 months or so. So I'm going to be sharing anything that comes on my path of how these lines translate into real life as well. But Portugal is different. In Portugal, the main thing, so where I was is in Peniche, which is right around here, just above Lisbon. Beautiful, to be honest. Kind of same story in the sense that it is also a surf town, a lot of surf culture, great for surfing, always different angles of swell that the waves work for, a lot of kiting as well. So it was kind of an easy pick in that sense to, throughout Portugal. A lot happening too. So that's, it's a bit lively, but not a city, because I don't think I could do a city, maybe in the future sometime, but let's see. So we're kind of in this spot here. And obviously, we already see the main line straight going straight here, which is an IC line, which is a home line. This one has to do with home, how you feel in the place, potentially with family. So when it comes to astrocartography, this can really show you what a place will feel like. And it is paired with the planet Ceres. Ceres is actually an asteroid. Let me correct myself there. Ceres is one of the asteroids. It's not quite classified as a planet, but it is one of the like main asteroids that has a big influence and that a lot of astrologers use because it has some beautiful topics that it's about. Ceres stands for nature, connection to nature, literally. It stands for fertility, and just this general feeling of feeling content, I would say. So that's kind of, if we think about nature and feeling content, and this like springtime feeling is also a big series topic, feeling like this like springtime where everything is blossoming, and that's very much series. That combined with my home line, with this IC line, just makes this such a nice place to be for me. I mean, we've spent 5 months there. I could live there hands down. I can tell you right now. because it just felt, I loved be like walking there, going on walks or on runs and walking across these beautiful cliffs with the ocean underneath, seeing the lines of the waves rolling in is so incredibly special. It's unlike anything I've seen, and it's a kind of type of nature that I really resonated with and really connected with. So I felt great here. I felt absolutely great here, which is really kind of the main story here. And if anything, I maybe felt a little bit less. I was missing a bit of a fire. I was starting these studies, and I was trying to find clients, and I just didn't, with the clients it didn't really happen, and I was kind of missing this like energy of like, let's go, let's get this done. I was kind of just living life and surfing, and then I was living the dream that summer. It was literally the summer of my life, meeting beautiful people. So yeah, it's that was great, but I was missing a bit of that energy for sure, which I'm kind of hoping that Jupiter career line is going to bring me in France. So it already shows that massive difference. And if I look at the distance, um I still have the influence of that Jupiter line, actually. I still feel it, but it is more than halved in strength. It is medium to weak in strength. So there's still career growth. I found astrocartography there. That became my new career. So it's still a topic, it's still there, but it's not as, like that series line definitely overruled absolutely everything. Then there's still that, even that Neptune line, that white line coming crossing through here, that still felt too. Then everything else gets a little bit far. But the main story was kind of here. So now if I bring in an extra set of lines, if we bring the parans in again, I already see that I have no local space lines there, because this black line here is actually a local space line. So none of those cross Portugal. But I do have some parans going on. So if I zoom in a little bit into where I was right about here. So this was where I was. And then that is about, let's see, that is within high strength of this line, this Paran line, Jupiter Neptune. And Jupiter Neptune is an interesting one. It's this Neptune energy which can be a little bit foggy, but it's combined with Jupiter, this planet of growth and of positivity and of expansion. Putting those two together is literally an expansion of inspiration, which is kind of a cool topic. It is connecting with your spirituality. It is connecting, with all these alternative topics. So the fact that astrocartography came on my path here is such a Jupiter Neptune theme. It's exactly what it is. There's no other way to describe it. I and then there was other things as well, like I shared, I went to, some beautiful ceremonies. I went to nice yoga classes. I almost can say I connected with nature to a higher level while I was there surfing these waves. So that's a big story there. Then there's a line all the way down at Lisbon as well. That one is still felt too. And that one is in weak strength, so it's not as strong as the one above. But the one on the bottom is actually a combination of Venus and the North Node. And Venus and the nodes, Venus is the planet of love, of abundance, of beauty. And the North and South node, the lunar nodes, stand for kind of your destiny in life, your purpose. And combining that with Venus kind of expands all the Venus themes. It brings more light to these Venus themes. So Venus together with the North Node is a beautiful line for meeting karmic people, going with a partner to really, reconnect in your relationship, meet someone for a relationship potentially. It can be, connecting to the beauty within yourself, connecting with the beautiful things around you. And I would definitely say those were big topics for me as well. Um, I mean, everything, if I kind of summarize everything I see here for Portugal, is it is softness, it is love, it is inspiration, it is nature. I could live there. That does not sound bad. However, if you're at the stage where you want to build a career, grow a career, it is not the most productive place. It did not feel like the most productive place for me. So, how would I then look at that for the future? I'm like, well, if I would have already established my business, if my business was standing, it was running, that is not something that's currently a big theme in my life because that's just what's already happening, then I could most definitely go live in Portugal and balance that out, that hardworking side of running a business, balance that out with all these soft energies. But for now, I'm like, no, no, bring me to France, to the south of France, where I have that beautiful Jupiter line that is really going to help me expand and grow my business and my image, maybe through these live streams. We'll see. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here because that's what I wanted to show you today, which I am very excited you had a look with me at my current place and at my birth chart a little bit and comparing that to where I lived last summer. And yeah, I just want to thank you for holding this space for me, and I'm really hoping that this can become a thing I'm going to be doing more and more in the future. I am planning to bring some consistency in and really connect with all of you. I've been seeing some beautiful comments in the chat, which is amazing to see. And yeah, just so thankful, honestly, so thankful to have this space. um, as of now, I think it's good to mention that I do offer astrocartography readings. So if you have become curious today about your places in the world, where you currently live, where you maybe have been wanting to go, or, what are some of your best places in the world, that is something I can help you with. And you can also find your map online for free if you just want to play around with it a little bit first. I can for sure recommend that. You can go to astro.com and just download your map and see your lines. But the main difference with, having a professional reading is that I use this professional software that you have seen today, where we have those horizontal lines that are so incredibly important, and these local space lines, which you do not have on the free maps. So we can really go in depth into, okay, what does this place mean, and where exactly to the point should I be? And also, the free software will give you a lot of info about what each planetary line means, but it won't share what that planet does in your chart. And that's very important as well, because a lot of people will tell you, if you look online, that Pluto lines are bad and that Mars lines are super frustrating. And this is very often true. These are real themes of these planets. But at the same time, maybe you have a great Pluto in your chart. Maybe you have an incredibly supportive, aspect to these planets, where it actually could be a really great place for you. So that's what we can really dive into in a reading. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Feel free to send me feedback on my very first live here on Gigaverse. And I am going to tune out. Feel free to stay within the community. There's a lot of info there. You can find the link to my website if you want to learn a little bit more about who I am and what I do. And for now, I want to say thank you. Have a beautiful day, night, evening, wherever you are. Thank you for your positive responses in the chat and for staying on. I really appreciate it. And I cannot wait to connect with you next time. Bye.